Good morning, I'm Christine Wong and you're listening to Enterprise. Now, today's Valentine's Day and different people have different activities that they like to do. For those planning on their perfect dinner date, Enfin by James Wong might just be the perfect place to go to for a culinary experience like no other. So today on the show with us, we have Chef James Wong, creator and curator of Enfin by James Wong, here to talk to us all about the unique elements that make Enfin stand out in the F&B industry and the crucial elements that he needs to keep in mind in order to achieve success. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Christine.
All right, so let's just start with the basics. Your restaurant, Enfin, was opened in 2016 and it has grown tremendously. So can you just explain what the restaurant is all about?
Well, we just moved to Menara Hapsing in 2016. Before this, we were in Oasis Damansara. So we started off in a very humble, small setup, more of a brasserie. So the iteration before this was basically a brasserie Enfin. I am lucky. We managed to find some individuals that could somehow relate to what I wanted to do. And that was to pursue the best the country can offer, be it ingredients, be it skills, be it service. And since then, we have been meticulously, month after month, trying to reshape ourselves. And Enfin now is a farm-to-table practice, which was a vision that I wanted to create from day one. I actually found a place with a rooftop garden where we actually started planting our own little vegetables and whatever we could find to plant and successfully grow crops to cook it in the restaurant. So that's where we are right now. We would say we're a full-service restaurant. So we have our own bar to start with your aperitif as you arrive, before you go and adjourn into your main dining room.
Right. So what sort of cuisine would one expect were they to dine at Enfin?
I would categorize us as a contemporary French restaurant. So in other words, you expect to see certain things, a certain description in the menu, and when the chef comes out to describe the plate, they would talk about how things are made with a French technique, but with very localized ingredient. But you have a completely new dimension and perspective of what it should taste like. So that means I'm not talking about doing a confused nasi lemak per se, right? So it's just what good chicken should taste like, what good, fresh, homegrown vegetables should taste like. You know, those for me are more important than you doing any fancy techniques. So really, we want to focus on what the producers can do and how we celebrate it in the kitchen.
It sounds like there are a lot of elements in Enfin that are very unique. But I just wanted to ask, there are quite a lot of restaurants in Kuala Lumpur that have a similar kind of idea in terms of like, I guess the closest word I can find is like fine dining. So How do you stand apart?
If you were to look at Enfin by James Wong as a dining venue, well, we sit in a very unique address. If you were to look at the restaurant, first thing, you can't find a signage. We don't have an outdoor signage. It's very discreet. It's created as such because our clientele are those who want privacy, those who respect discretion. They're not here to be gawked at or, to be seen. So it's a different clientele. Number one, I would call us a fine dine simply because the whole entire concept of dining is taught out from the minute you step out of the lift into our lobby space. You're greeted. One of the things that really put us apart from everyone else is there is no such thing as small details. Why? Because the concept of what we do at Enfin is everything matters. So there is no small, no big. So everything is a detail. So from how we make our bread, how we make our butter, the kind of salt we use, the linen, the chair, the design of the table, everything is thought of. To go back to the whole fine dine thing, we have a full degustation, we have a very good pairing, we have a big cellar. It's curated because we want to be artisan. We want to be bespoke. We blend, we infused. We even create our own koji. And we create our own fermentation. So we have a big library of fermentation. And this library of fermentation actually started because I was pursuing to make one of the best bread in the region. And we wanted to, because my chef has always told me one thing. And if you're going to be a real French restaurant, your butter and bread don't make it, then pretty much your meal following doesn't matter. The baker in France is as revered as a medical doctor, because it's during the World War II, they say France. That's what people fed on through the famine. So we have our own levain, very well aged. Many news agencies have talked about how we build our bread. So we don't use yeast. Everything is naturally fermented. We have series of natural bacteria in our library. Now, in order to keep the bacteria active and healthy, you need a series of enzymes. And these are naturally fermented fruit enzymes with different strength. So because these bacteria are alive, you need to be able to have medicine just in case they fall sick. So they're like a big extension of the kitchen. So because we do that and we have all this fermentation, naturally it's great to use it at the bar. So when people sit down, the mixologist will be asking you, how would you like to start your evening? How do you feel today? Something salty, sexy, sweet, sour, strong. And based on that diagnosis, if I could use that word, he will make you a drink. If you were to say, hey, look, I would like to have something a bit more stiff, he would give you a choice of selected beverage and you decide from there and say, okay, you want sweet? Let's adjust it this way. Even for sweetness, right? When we talk about sweetness at my bar or in my kitchen, we don't just reach out for salt. We don't just reach out for sugar. We look at sweetness in a very different way. So natural fruit sugars, we harvest, we extract. So we do a lot of this. One, for a better word, some people would call it molecular. But for me, it's just part of my kitchen repertoire. It's not the main element of what we do. Because when you're trying to create an experience and a cuisine, it's not about one singular technique. It should be very encompassing. So this is one thing that really set us apart. And how do we achieve where we are today? My team, my kitchen crew is 100% Malaysian. I'm very proud of it because we're cooking cuisine that is internationally recognized, internationally awarded, and all by Malaysians. And the most incredible thing, these Malaysians have never even been to Paris or France or any part of the Europe. When the point of reference is so far apart, sometimes they have too many doubts and confidence that they cannot reach or they don't know they're doing something great. So we try to keep it as real as possible, and we try to keep it very international. I don't like to, for example, get into trends. I don't trend. I try to work hard in creating something that is contemporary, for want of a better word, relevant. Relevant in the sense of how we dine today, what our diet is, lighter, not so... we still like complexity, but we do not want heaviness. So, and we're not a dairy country, so we have to cook light, right? But when you cook light, at the same time, this country loves fat. We love fat. We love anything that comes from animal derivative. At the same time, like I said, we want to keep it relevant. We want people to enjoy the meal. We want to give them a different perspective, right? So that's how we keep ourselves going, and we keep ourselves continuously working. We change our menu every month. I know some people will say, why would you want to be changing your menu every month? Why should you change your menu anyone? Then you're not giving your guests a chance to taste what you have created. But for me, when you are going to be driven by the seasons, I cannot dictate the menu. Mother Nature tells me what I have to cook and what I can cook. Because every week, Lisa from the farm will send us a message and tell us, Chef, there is no carrots. Chef, there is no tomatoes. Chef, there's no this. So we have to be creative. And because it's being planted for you, you have no choice. You can't tell them to, hey, can you make it grow faster? Hey, can you go and buy some from somebody next door? Then it's not a real farm-to-table practice. So it's been a long road, a long journey. We've planned this from day one. So it was no accident.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds a lot like you focus a lot on creating a holistic dining experience. You can go into any kind of eatery, right? You can go in, you can order your food, you can go out, and that can be, in and of itself, a different sort of satisfactory experience. But this is about, well, the word that comes to my mind is customization.
Bespoke,
right?
artisan.
Bespoke. You want your diner to leave having every single need met and every single want met. I think that that's really interesting because it's not something that a lot of other food and beverage companies or restaurants or eateries can necessarily do. It's something that is very, as we've kind of discussed, it is very unique to how Enfin works. You were speaking a lot about the fact that Enfin is now a farm-to-table restaurant, which is a concept that you've been working on for a very long time in order to get it off the ground, so to speak. Tell us a little bit more about why that was so important to be able to achieve that concept.
I'm very much a person who like to take things as they are and accentuate the beauty without actually changing it. So when you want to build a cuisine that basically pay homage to nature, you can't just go to supermarket and select the best. Then you're not really paying homage to nature because you are dictating how the plate looks. Where in our case, is what is presented to us and how we accentuate further. And I strongly believe when you actually put attention and love to what you do, especially when it comes to farming, it makes a difference. The farm is organic, is biodynamic. So there's no nitrogen where like normal commercial farming, they pump nitrogen into the ground to accelerate the growth of the vegetables. So you get beautiful big vegetables in a very short period of time, but zero taste. Right now, most people do not know what real vegetable tastes like. You might eat vegetables, but you're eating fiber. You're not eating what a carrot should taste like. What is the sweetness of carrot? When you have great ingredients, 90% of your work is done. Because you don't need seasoning. You don't need to be complex because the vegetable is so amazing that itself on its own blows you away.
I kind of love that just because I think as a concept, Enfin seems to be all about not only giving the consumers, and your customers and your diners what they want and need, but also giving your produce, also giving your ingredients what they want and what they need as well. It's not just bespoke in terms of creating the experience for your diners, but also the way that you speak about your ingredient and the produce that is from, your farm, which I believe is located in Cameron Highlands as well.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're curating a specific experience for them, for these vegetables and this fruit and this and your bread and everything. Sounds like the experience that goes through is also carefully curated every step of the way as well.
Correct. Because why come to me? There's so many other restaurants. What is it that you want and what you should expect from us? Is that when you have 4 diners at the table, each 4 of you will have a different experience. Different in not in the sense of different in quality, different in the sense that you have that very personalized feel. Because we were not going to tell you, hey, I'm not McDonald's, I cannot standardize your burger, I'm not a factory. There's nothing wrong with that. It's one of my favorite things. But for me, I don't teach my team to standardize. I teach my team to appreciate and to actually, like I said, pay homage to what is given to us, to accentuate the beauty, not to change things. We're not creators. We are merely translating what's been given to us and presenting it. So if we don't have this great relationship with the producers, with our suppliers, you cannot be successful. I keep my team with one very strong motto. Never, never, never take your suppliers, never, never take your producers for granted. Without them, your job is a lot harder because they can send you last minute bad carrots. And what are you going to do? You have to work harder. But when you are sent fresh, beautiful, amazing looking produces, you get excited, right? Nobody in this world do not like beautiful things. So for me, like I said, 90% our job is done. So you don't reach out for artificial flavors. You don't try to compensate. You try to your focus then is bringing out the best possible.
So in a way, because you have now achieved becoming a farm-to-table restaurant, you're able to, first of all, to see the entire supply chain out very, very clearly, but also appreciate that, right? The kind of directness and that relationship between, as you've said, your suppliers and, what they give you to what ends up being served on the table as well.
Yes. And also, like I said, maybe because of my belief system. So I believe in, I don't think it's a nice way to say it, but it's a bit of a conflict sometimes, but I have to remedy it in a different way where we are socially responsible. If we are taking the lives of animals, we make sure we celebrate it correctly. The life that we took was done in a proper manner, meaning that it did not stress. Because many people don't understand, stressed animals don't taste good. Just like unhappy chef cook an unhappy meal. So we want things coming to us in a way that is being killed properly, preserved properly, and when they send to us, they are equally as excited as we are. And I'm talking about my producers, I'm talking about my suppliers. Because one thing I'm very happy in the last 6 years of being back in the F&B industry is the fact that my suppliers have grown to know me and basically now understand that people like me do exist. Because I'm not price-driven. I'm very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. I know this is totally against the norm because most business people would be very focused on costing. I'm lucky because my patronage is one of who understand what I do is you cannot just look at the price factor, right? But at the same time, you can understand that when you're paying this X dollar, is going totally into quality. So the word that I drive time and time again is quality. It's tough. It's very tough. It's a long journey until people understand and accept you're not just doing a gimmick. Because a lot of people talk about quality. A lot of people say that, well, they are doing the best possible. But at what cost, right? We want to make sure fish are killed properly. We want to make sure it's sustainable. So nothing in my plate or in my menu is not from a sustainable source. Why go farm to table? Number one, when your vegetables are flown half around the world to get to you, the carbon footprint is so much higher. The packaging materials, right? The amount of logistics that goes into it is no longer fresh. And more importantly, you cannot beat something that's grown in soil that's sent to you at the peak of ripeness, right? And the journey is only 3 hours. How do you beat that? Until you've tasted vegetables and fruit or meat of that sort, you won't understand. So I find there is a need. There is a need to be responsible as a chef to my guests to let them know that, hey, this is what chicken should taste like. This is what fish should taste like. This is what carrot should taste like. You don't hear me talking about exotic products because for me, quality is the most exotic thing you can ever sell. If you give me the most amazing house planted, I'm talking house, not farm, that you planted yourself and you just pluck and put it into my mouth, I'm pretty sure it's a lot more tasty than most commercial vegetables.
Essentially, the kind of experience and the kind of concept of Enfin, from what I can gather, can be summed up in the word respect. It's respect for what your consumers want, what your consumers need. It's also respect for your ingredients and the quality of your ingredients, and also respect for your suppliers, your producers. The entire experience from beginning to end, from farm to table, is respecting all of what goes into making that culinary experience worthwhile.
Correct. I mean, okay, everything matters. I travel constantly just looking for mad, crazy things. And sometimes it's not about, the next greatest machine. I'm constantly traveling looking for the best ingredient. So that's when my focus is. I've always been that. And that's what I want to continue to celebrate. Because I think in order for our industry to grow, we need to work with our producers. We need to work with our suppliers. We need to work with our beverage makers. Enfin will be not where it is today if we didn't work so closely with the beverage makers. They were the one who took us international. Well, I represent quite a few brands, and that's helped me and to gave me a platform to evangelize. And what am I evangelizing? the opportunities here in Malaysia. And I think that's why in this few years we see so many new restaurants coming up. And it's exciting. It's really exciting. I'm so proud to see so many individuals that are creating new Malaysian cuisine. You know, right or wrong, doesn't matter. But there is no such thing as a right or wrong in craft, in art. The only wrong part about art is when it's stale and it doesn't have a voice. That means you don't react to it. Not everybody is going to like an Andy Warhol, but you might say, oh, yeah, wow, that's different. They have to provoke a reaction. Cuisine is the same.
Right. I think that's definitely fair. But unfortunately, on that note, that's about all the time we have. I've been speaking to Chef James Wong, creator and curator of Enfin by James Wong. Have a happy Valentine's Day and stay tuned to BFM 89.9. I'm Christine Wong. You're listening to Enterprise.